I'm Jean Weston, co-president of the League of Women Voters of Bucks County. I would like to welcome you tonight to the League's Candidate Forum for the Bucks County District Attorney. This program is being live streamed to Facebook and recorded for later viewing on the League's Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. For the last century, the League of Women Voters has worked to empower voters and to defend democracy. The League is a nonpartisan organization, and it never supports or opposes candidates or parties. We believe that while it's vital that we make voting easy and accessible for all citizens, it is equally important that voters know who the candidates are and what they stand for. To this end, we provide forums such as the one tonight, as well as our online voter's guide at vote411.org, where you can learn about candidates who are on your ballot, all the candidates on your ballot, and other useful election information, such as where and how you can cast your vote for the November election. I'd now like to hand this program over to Sandy Madsen from the League of Women Voters of New Jersey, who will introduce the candidates and review the rules. Sandy?
Good evening, everyone. Before I do rules and introduce the candidates, just a little bit. This is a forum for the Bucks County District Attorney. It's a 4-year term, and the District Attorney represents the people of the county in all criminal matters. The District Attorney oversees the operations of the county jail, is legal advisor to the coroner, and advises police agencies and other law enforcement officials during investigations and prosecutions. Furthermore, this individual engages in community-based crime prevention programs and is available to all citizens of the county who have questions or concerns regarding criminal matters. For the forum this evening, the two candidates have 60 seconds for openings and closings and to respond to all the questions. So we have two timekeepers that are out of the view of those of you who are watching this, but clearly in the view of the candidates, Lydia Winderman and Connie Borchevsky, who will let the candidates know when their time is up. So the candidates, to my immediate right is Matthew Weintraub, Republican, who is the incumbent district attorney. And next to him is Antonetta Stancu, who is the Democratic candidate for Bucks County District Attorney. So with that, they drew for who would go first for opening, and we will begin with Mr. Weintraub.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I am the district attorney. I've been your district attorney for 5 years, but my tie to Bucks County goes way deeper than that. I love Bucks County. I grew up in Bucks County. I grew up right down the road, actually. We're here in Warrington. I grew up in Southampton. I went to Shellmeyer Elementary right on Street Road. I went to William Tennant High School, class of '86, Panther Pride. I'm very proud of where I went to school, and I am so glad that I get to have the privilege of serving every person here in Bucks County, the now 646,000 people that live here, let alone the people that work here every day. But this is about leadership, and my leadership has been tested and proven in times of crisis, including COVID, including horrific murder cases, and frankly through civic unrest. And that is exactly what I promise you for the next 4 years when you vote for me. Thank you.
Mrs. Stancu.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, League of Women Voters, for having us tonight. My story is my parents' American dream. They worked really hard to make sure that I'd be the first in my family to be able to go to high school, and then college, and then law school. And it's that work ethic and that sense of responsibility to our community that propelled me into a 16-year career as a prosecutor. I served in Bronx County, New York. I served federally close to the border in Texas. And I served here in Bucks County, handling the most violent and major crimes. for you, your community. I have to tell you though, my husband and I, we chose Bucks County to return to. This is where I began my school years, in the Chamonix School District. We did so to provide a better life for our children, but instead, we saw drug rates increase. We saw violence on the headlines on a daily basis. And we see a community that is not comfortable feeling safe sending their children to school. I'm running for district attorney to provide a safer future for our family.
Thank you. The first question will go to Mr. Weintraub. Describe qualifications and experiences that make you the best candidate for this position.
There's a saying, I think it was Muhammad Ali, said, "It ain't bragging if you're doing it." And I've been working at this for 28 years, Sandy. I have been an assistant DA all the way up through the ranks to district attorney. I was appointed the district attorney by the Board of Judges and then elected district attorney 4 years ago. But before that, we were just beset by just awful, horrific instances where there was some depravity. And that's when your character is really tested, when you have an opportunity to stand in the breach and see what kind of a person you really are. Do you run from a fight or do you take it head on? And my leadership was demonstrated in that crucible. And that's how you take a lump of coal and you harden it into a diamond. I'm not perfect. A lot of my decisions will be second guessed, but I assure you that they will all be based on principle and not politics. And that's what sets me apart from my opponent.
Thank you. Mrs. Stancu.
As I've talked about, I have a 16-year career as a prosecutor.
Could you both get a little closer to your microphone?
Sure.
People who are listening online are saying that they're having difficulty hearing. So,
I apologize for that.
pardon me.
Do you want to restate Mr. Weintraub's answer? Should I go?
No.
So as I stated before, I did have a 16-year career as a prosecutor. Started out in the Bronx, where I specialized in violent and major crimes. I then worked in the federal government as an assistant U.S. attorney, where again I handled violent crimes, including major gun and drug trafficking cases. I decided to move back home and began my 8-year career as a prosecutor here in Bucks County. And that was until 2 years ago when I began my own criminal law firm. During my time in Bucks County, though, I served the people across this county, handling the most major and violent crimes. I tried homicides, I tried home invasions, and I was once even referred to by my opponent as Bucks County's secret weapon. My qualifications in a courtroom will stand second to no one. But what will lead me out is this: I will not allow anything to get in the way of doing what is right. We need to ensure a community, we need to ensure a criminal justice system that provides equal justice for every single member of our community.
Thank you. The next question will go first to Mrs. Stancu. In your opinion, what is the biggest challenge facing the district attorney's office? And if elected, how would you address it?
We have for years been way behind the ball on the mental health game. We are facing a crisis that going into the pandemic was overwhelming. We had no mental health court going into 2020. We had no mental health diversionary programs. We had no mental health training for any of the prosecutors in that office or for any of our law enforcement brothers and sisters. And then we went into a pandemic that only heightened the need for that mental health assistance. The first and foremost thing that I will do when I'm district attorney is ensure that mental health is addressed at every level, in every aspect of that office.
Mr. Weintraub, the biggest challenge.
Well, the great news is everything that Ms. Stancu had on our wish list we have covered, and we have had for quite some time. I'm very happy to report that. But I see our biggest challenge as the potential influx of crime from Philadelphia and from Trenton. The borders are porous. People are free to travel where they want. That's what makes this county great. But what I am afraid of is the lawlessness that we see in Philadelphia and Trenton, and I worry every day that that's going to spread to Bucks County. So we keep our police well trained, we keep our communities safe, by making sure we engage in prevention projects and programs at all of the schools. And we make sure that Bucks County maintains a very, very strong value system, that there is accountability when people commit a crime. Not that they have to be locked up for the rest of their lives, but there has to be some accountability. And we don't want that to pour over from Philadelphia and Trenton.
The next series of questions relate to outreach and relationships with the communities you serve. This will go first to Mr. Weintraub. What programs do you support that you believe will reduce crime and increase public safety?
I believe that you have to get at the root of crime, whether that's somebody that has a mental health, mental illness, somebody that's suffering from a substance use disorder, or frankly, plain old education. Good diversionary programs will cover that. We want to get at the root of why somebody may be committing crime. So if they're committing a crime to feed their substance use disorder, or because they have an undiagnosed mental illness, we need to put them in the programs that I've established so that we hopefully never see them again. But even beyond that, I myself travel to all of the high schools, all of the middle schools in Bucks County to educate our kids on pro-social activities that are available to them so that they make smart, right choices, and frankly, so that they have the courage to stand up for what's right and not necessarily divert into what's wrong. If we have a strong foundation with our children, we have a head start on this fighting crime.
Mrs. Stancu, programs that would reduce crime and increase public safety?
I believe strongly in community policing and community prosecution. One such program that I'm very proud of is a program that I instituted just a month ago. I worked hard with the state troopers here in Pennsylvania and Bristol Township's Police Department to incorporate a Police Youth Alliance program at Keystone Elementary School in Bristol. We brought backpacks to the kids and began a monthly reading programs to those first graders. Those are memories and real values that we're instilling in first graders that will last a lifetime. It's building bridges between the community that absolutely need to be focused on. So I believe in community policing and community prosecution. I also believe in making sure that we address cases on a one-on-one basis, ensuring that each and every concern that we have on that particular case is ensured. So if mental health is what we need to address, then that's going to be the focus for that case. If we need to get to the root of drug addiction, then that'll be the focus.
Thank you. Mrs. Stancu will go first. Programs that would improve community relations with the police and improve community involvement.
Well, I think I might have answered that question in my last question to you, but I absolutely, as I said, I believe in community policing. So I believe that we need to make sure that our community knows what our wonderful officers do, make sure that our prosecutors are available to the community members, every one of our prosecutors. I wonder if we asked ourselves, in your own home, who is it that takes care of me, that takes care of my neighbor when they're victimized? You probably have no idea. I'd like to change that. I'd like to ensure that you know the faces of the people who are actually serving you. I want to also ensure that our children are feeling safe in their schools and feeling safe in their families. And I'll do that by ensuring that the bridges between our police officers and our community members are built.
Mr. Weintraub.
So I'm imagining that many of you that are watching today are familiar with our Love is the Answer program. This is a program that was created by a dear friend of mine now, AJ Ali, who is from the West Coast. And this program unites police in the communities that they serve. I actually agree with Ms. Stancu on this, on the issue that our police do need to know the communities that they serve and the people in them. But I also feel that in many instances, the communities that the police serve individually do know the police that are keeping them safe every night. Our police do a wonderful job by and large. They don't do so for recognition. But what we need to do is a better job to cure the difference between perception and reality. Because in Bucks County, we're very, very fortunate. We do have great police, and there is a lot of respect for law enforcement and from law enforcement to the people they serve. And if you are interested, all you have to do is ask, and we'll set up a coffee with a cop in your community. That's a promise.
Thank you. The next question will go first to Mr. Weintraub. What is the role of the district attorney in relationship to the victims of crime?
That's our #1 priority. We hope to not have to deal with future victims. If we can prevent crime in the first place, then we're accomplishing an awful lot. We'll never know the people that we've spared, but having done special victims prosecution for almost my entire career, including all the way up to homicide, I know the anguish and the pain that a victim can experience. And when I talk about victims, I'm not just talking about the actual person that has been victimized, because that emanates throughout their entire family, and certainly in the instance of homicides, the actual victim is no longer with us, but that family has to live through that experience. I was working on a homicide case today, and we take great pains to make sure that the families and the victims themselves are accommodated, to the extent that we actually have a therapy dog, a comfort dog, that works for my office, Daisy the comfort dog, and she has been an incredible resource and frankly our favorite employee.
Mrs. Stancu, the issue of victims and how they are served.
Serving your victims and making sure the entire community and your victims are safe and that their concerns are alleviated is first and foremost. I'd like to talk about domestic violence in Bucks County. We have seen a rise in crimes against family and victims. In fact, from 2015 to 2018, it rose over 100%. And what we're seeing, though, with these domestic violence cases, and I'll tell you, Mr. Weintraub talked about homicides. A majority of the homicides, at least in 2019, were domestic violence cases. But unfortunately, what we're seeing is a delay in justice. Do you know that it takes about 6 months for a victim to actually see a courtroom between the time that the incident occurs and they go before a judge? This 6 months is crucial, and it's time that they can be preyed upon. This is a major downfall and failure in the system that we need to correct.
All right, Mrs. Stancu, please comment on how aggressively you would prosecute those arrested with charges of sex trafficking, and how you would provide support and advocate for the victims that provide testimony to support your case.
During my 16 years, I will tell you, I was known to be a tough but fair prosecutor. I have put hundreds of violent criminals behind bars, and sex trafficking is one of the most serious and most violent crimes that we see. I would advocate for the prosecution to the fullest extent with sex traffickers. And this is another case where we need to make sure that our victims get the support they need early, that they're removed from bad situations, and that they see justice in a time period that's fair for them.
Mr. Weintraub.
I've prosecuted sex traffickers. They are despicable, they are insidious, they are awful, awful people, because they prey on the weakest of us. They prey on people that may be predisposed to leaving their families, or that may have a drug issue. And once they get their grips on their victims, they do not let go. I am proud to say that I have personally, professionally, put sex traffickers behind bars, whether that is somebody that is a human trafficker or somebody that preys on little children. There is no sentence. These people are despicable. But to talk about a positive, one of the other things that has occurred during my time as district attorney is we have places where, and it tends to be women, where women can go to heal once they've been trafficked. There's one called The Well, which is in the upper end of the county, and a brand new one in Newtown. And I believe that these are positive steps to make sure that these women will never be trafficked again.
Thank you. The next question will go first to you, Mr. Weintraub.
Turn the page.
The role of the police has been in the news what can be done, or perhaps to strengthen the relationship between the district attorney's office and the local police forces? Or if you challenge that viewpoint, if you would speak to that. The relationship between the district attorney's office and the local police forces.
I have great news. We are not in Philadelphia. I have a fantastic relationship with the police departments that I work with daily. And I will give credit where it's due. Our police chiefs, and there are 39 of them in Bucks County, all belong to an organization called the Bucks County Police Chiefs Association, of which I'm a member, not the leader. And we make decisions collaboratively. But frankly, you can't just sit up in your ivory tower. You can't just come up with theoretical ideas. You have to go out to where the people are. And as long as the police know that you're available, you answer every call, every email, every text, every visit, that you're accessible, there's a tendency to collaborate even on a greater scale. This is something that I've worked very, very hard at, and something that I am particularly proud of, because we have great police that care about the communities that they serve. That is their mission, and they do it well every day.
Mrs. Stancu.
We do have some of the best police officers right here in Bucks County. I can say that having worked with officers all over this country and federal agents all over this country. They are proud to serve Bucks County. And frankly, I've probably worked with almost every single one of them because I was the one walking into the courtroom with them. And I can tell you this much, they want to do the best thing that they could possibly do for our community. They want to be better. They want to make sure that if there is a bad apple, they're held accountable. Because just like in every profession, even in prosecutions, we see there are bad prosecutors. And we need to hold them accountable because otherwise they jeopardize the integrity of the entire system. But first and foremost, we have a wonderful police department who likes to work with our community, and our community members truly do respect our police officers. I'll continue to forge that relationship between them.
Mrs. Stancu, this one will go to you first. What should be the Bucks County District Attorney's policy on body cameras on uniform law enforcement? And the question, which is one that was submitted by the public, asks, why is it up to individual municipalities to decide?
So I'll answer that second part first. Because we do have 39 different police forces here, police departments here, it is up to the individual municipalities in order to determine what their policies are. I would strongly encourage and assist any police department in getting the resources to be able to have body cam and dash cam video available to them at all times.
Mr. Weintraub.
It's an easy one. I agree. There is really no good reason why every police officer in Bucks County should not have a body cam at this point. To answer the question, I guess this is more civics. This is probably the only civics question I could get right, but Pennsylvania is a Commonwealth. There's 4 of them. I know what they are: Kentucky, Virginia, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania. And because we're a Commonwealth, we differ from states in that the lowest level of government is the level that controls. Ms. Stancu is absolutely right. So like it or not, Warrington, Falls, wherever you are, they are the deciders as to whether their police wear body cams. But if I were the decider, they would all wear them. Because more often, they give you transparency and clarity that every citizen, and frankly the police, deserve.
Thank you. This will go first to Mr. Weintraub. What are you doing, or would you do, to develop a trusting relationship with the immigrant community within the county?
There's an agency, I am going to butcher this name and I apologize, called Corella Icotella, and I know that is not how you say it, but they're in Doylestown. They work hand in hand with the immigrant. I see at least one head shaking that I got that close. But it's run by Jenny Isaacs, and she and I meet pretty regularly. She's a pretty good influence on me. I think immigrants deserve a fair shot. There's a, I don't know that it should be controversial, but there's a big controversy where, for example, immigrants that were here that couldn't obtain a driver's license used to be able to, and then that was taken away from them. But if you ask me, somebody has a driver's license, at least you know they know some minimum standard of how to keep everybody safe on the road. So I'm all for that. I think everybody deserves a fair shot. I do believe in the rule of law. There should be law and order, but I do work regularly with Jenny Isaacs.
Mrs. Stancu.
I think I have a unique perspective on this question because I am first generation American. I watched as my parents, who outwardly didn't look any different, but the second they opened their mouths or you walked in and smelled the authentic Romanian home cooking, you knew that we were a family of immigrants. I watched the inequities that they went through and the difficulties and obstacles that they went through as I grew up. I would ensure that every single member of our community, regardless of race or ethnicity, absolutely has a shot at fair and equal justice.
Thank you. This goes first to Mrs. Stancu. It's about, do you support specialty courts and programs that deal with certain populations and issues such as drug court, mental illness court, veterans and juvenile offenders programs, and why or why not?
I do, but they need to be real courts and they need to work. Right now, we've spent millions of dollars on drug programs when in fact, they're not working. We're seeing a rise in overdose deaths of 17% in just the last year alone. Our veterans are not getting the full support they need for mental health assistance. And a mental health court in 2021, that just now has been announced, isn't even on the district attorney's website. It doesn't have any qualifications, any standards, any rules, any policies. These are not real courts. It's not enough. We need to have specialty courts that actually work and actually lower our crime rates.
Mr. Weintraub.
I find that ironic because I know Ms. Stancu has taken advantage of our mental health specialist, our assistant district attorney, Colin Jenny. She actually has worked cases out with him to make sure that we give equitable justice, fair justice, to people who are suffering from mental illness. I myself, as district attorney, have actually established a county-wide diversion program for people who suffer from substance use disorder at the district court level. Nobody has to wait 6 months. They get it when it's at the cheapest, closest, and quickest level so we can save lives. As for mental health court, it was I who contracted with the Catrone Center for Criminal Justice at Penn Law School to tell us about the efficacy of mental health court. I can't do that by myself, but I did get that report published and submitted it to our courts, and now we have a mental health court here in Bucks County. I am very grateful to say. We've had a veterans court for years. We've had a drug court for years, but we can do more, and we will.
Mr. Weintraub. We hear a lot about the use of cash bail. What are your thoughts about reducing reliance on cash bail?
I am opposed to that. I see what's happening in Philadelphia where they've reduced the use of cash bail. It has been an unmitigated disaster. There is no accountability. People do not show up. The people that are released with no bail status, meaning released on their own recognizance, are literally, actually committing more crime. We have cash bail here in Pennsylvania, in Bucks County. It is reasonably set, and then 2 days a week, and Ms. Stancu can vouch for this, people can go and ask for a bail reduction. They can do that on a regular basis as long as they present a good faith reason why their bail should be reduced. Our job and our goal is not to pre-incarcerate people. Our job and our goal is to keep the community safe and ensure that people who are facing serious charges will be in court to address them.
Mrs. Stancu.
I'm not in favor of eliminating cash bail. I believe that there are violent criminals who belong in jail. That is our #1 priority in keeping our community safe. We do and we can do better at probably keeping track of what somebody's ability to pay is. And so obviously $1,000 bail to one person may be very different than $1,000 bail to another person. And that does need to be taken into account. We need to be better at making sure that that's represented. And perhaps that would decrease some of the overcrowding issues that we've seen. But in general, I am opposed to eliminating cash bail, and I do believe our violent criminals absolutely do need to stay in jail.
The next series of questions refer mostly to the district attorney's role as an administrator. And I will begin with Mrs. Stancu. If elected, what will you do to address the criminal jury trial backlog caused by COVID?
Well, I think opening resources is number one. So at the moment, there is still prosecutions of low level. Now we're not talking about high level, low level amounts of marijuana. What does that do? They are often filtered into a diversionary program that costs thousands of dollars. But aside from that, it also costs time. You have your officers off the street in the courtrooms. You have your assistant district attorneys going through these files, spending hours creating paperwork in order for the diversionary programs to be sought for this complete waste of resources. We need to be ensuring that with the limited resources that we do have, we're maximizing them. The district attorney's budget is $13 million, and that is actually higher than many of our sister counties, and yet we have one of the lowest numbers of district attorneys amongst any of the collar counties. We need to be ensuring that we're properly using our resources.
Mr. Weintraub.
I take umbrage with something that Ms. Stancu said. Our diversionary programs are working. We want to keep people alive. I don't want to incarcerate somebody that has a substance use disorder if I can treat them at the earliest possible stage in our system. I do agree that our assistant DA should not be wasting their time on those cases, but they're not, because they're being dealt with at the district court level. Another one of the things that I'd love to see employed here in Bucks County that every other county does except for ours is the individual calendar system. Right now, our system is highly inefficient, but we are at the mercy of the court calendar and the judges. If they tell us we have to be there and be ready for trial, you mark it down. We will be there and we will be ready for trial. We just don't have any choice in the matter. But I would love to see that system change, just like all the other counties, so that we can have some more assurances for our victims, our witnesses, our jurors, our police, and people that come into contact with our system every day.
This goes first to Mr. Weintraub. What are your recommendations for increasing successful prosecutions?
Well, we have a very high success rate, I'm pleased to announce. I think our success rate, if you count our diversion programs, and I count them as a success, is in the high 90s in our percentage. And that's because we're fortunate here in Bucks County. Our police care, our victims and witnesses answer their subpoenas. The only thing that I really would focus on is trying to divert more cases to the treatment courts and focus on the more serious cases, because they're the ones that deserve our attention. If we could work hand in hand with the court administrators and our judges to streamline the process a little better so that not every case is called for trial, every listing, I think that would ensure a better, more streamlined and just outcome than we have even now. But we do a great job working with our victims and for our community.
Mrs. Stancu.
Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
What are your recommendations for increasing successful prosecutions?
So I believe success is determined by results. When you see that results are actually increasing in violence, increasing in homicides, increase of drug overdose deaths, I would say we have a real issue and need to focus more on being successful. That success is serving our community where it needs assistance, and I believe mental health is the first and foremost priority, not a priority. It must be the priority in serving our community. We need to ensure that people at an early level get the assistance they need so that crimes don't escalate, so we can be preventative in making sure that murders don't happen, that we aren't out there having major assaults, that we can get people help because the entire community will be safer that way.
The next question first for Mrs. Stancu. What will you do to attract and retain a qualified group of prosecutors?
Well, I think first and foremost, we need to have recruiting of a more diverse group of individuals. At the moment, the office is not representative of the community that we serve. There is not a single African American assistant district attorney in that office. I will also say that in order to have attorneys working there and feel respected, actually feel as though they can be productive, we need to ensure that their workload is not wasteful. We need to make sure that what they're focused on is what our community needs, and that they don't feel as though they're paper pushers in a courtroom day in and day out. We are working with a $13 million budget, as I said. We've got 4 less assistant district attorneys than one of our Collier County neighbors who has a budget of 30% less. We need to be ensuring that we can actually use our resources to hire more attorneys, to lower the caseload so that they can all be more effective.
Mr. Weintraub.
I am very proud to say, and I worked very hard at this, that I was able to raise our entry-level district attorney's salary over 20% since I've been the district attorney. You want to get good people, you want to keep good people, you got to pay them. The work is very rewarding. Ms. Stancu knows this. She worked with and for me for years. We know that the work is hard. We know that sometimes it's thankless, but you have to treat the people that you work with like your family. And I have placed a premium on that. If a person needs time off, they get it. If a person is sick and they need time off, they get it. If a person needs a mental health day, they get it. If they need time to go get whatever they need, they have to take the time that they need. I believe that you have to treat the people as your own family. As far as having a diverse group, I am very proud to say we have a number of Spanish-speaking attorneys and support staff on our staff, but we can do better. We must do better. I've engaged the Office of Diversity and Inclusion at the county for that very purpose. I've also gone to the high schools because I've been told that's where you have to go to start recruiting people of color. It is critical for us to do so.
You begin the next question, and the next question is about how you attract and retain a diverse group of prosecutors. So if you would like to continue on.
You read my mind. It is a challenge, but you can't just say that and be dismissive. This is a challenge that I accept because it is important for somebody that comes into contact with the criminal justice system to see people that look like them, that have their same experiences, that can relate on some level. So this is my obligation. As I just said in the last answer to my last question, we have a number of Spanish-speaking people on staff. We do have some people of color on staff, but we definitely have to do a better job. It is not enough to say we're trying. And I have been told by the Equity and Diversity and Inclusion Department that you got to go where the people are. You got to start younger. You got to start to have the young people in our high schools, which is where I now go, and entreat them to make them feel like this is a job that they could be proud of and not somebody that they should think to fight against. But that's my pledge, and I am doing that.
Mrs. Stancu, how you attract and retain a diverse group of prosecutors.
I think people take a look at an office and they can feel whether or not there's warmth there, whether they feel welcome there, whether they feel as though they're represented there, whether they feel as though if they're a part of that team, will that team give back to them? That is obviously something that needs to be worked on in that office. There needs to be more diverse recruitment for sure, but it has to be across the board. It can't just be going out to a particular high school or to one particular community and recruiting someone from the time they're 17. There is a passion here that people feel for the community. And if that passion is felt, then people will come and work for this office.
Mrs. Stancu, what role, if any, should the district attorney have in criminal justice reform?
So, during my 18 years in criminal law, I can proudly say that I have represented almost every member of our community in some fashion. I have served as a federal prosecutor at the federal level. I've served here in Bucks County as a deputy district attorney. Now I am a criminal defense attorney, and I represent the rights of people, real people who are suffering from issues, who find themselves faced with criminal justice, criminal cases. The role of the district attorney is to constantly progress, to know moving forward what the community needs, and that's going to change. It's going to change from year to year, let alone decade to decade. So the role of the district attorney is to really have your finger on the pulse, to know what affects the community, and when a crisis is identified, to really make changes.
Mr. Weintraub, what role, if any, should the district attorney have in criminal justice reform?
You can't just talk about it, you have to do it. You have to do it. And I have done it. In fact, it is no longer a barrier of any sort for a person that cannot pay for our diversion programs. If you can't pay and you can demonstrate you can't pay, you get in for free. It is a fact that we started the first co-responder program here in Bucks County, one of the first across the entire state of Pennsylvania, where if you do not need a police officer, but you need help, you're going to get it. You call 911, the cops come, clear the scene, make it safe, and then a co-responding social worker will come to make sure that you get the help you need, whether it's mental health help, whether it's drug and alcohol help. It is a fact that we put out with the chiefs of police a universal best practices use of force protocol that every chief, 39 of them, all promised that they would raise their standards to make that be the minimum standard. These are real reforms that I have put into place.
And this is the last question before closing this evening. First to Mr. Weintraub. What accomplishments in your legal career are you most proud of?
I'm not a bragger. I'm happy to be on my team. I can't really, I'm very proud of my accomplishments. I believe that I am right where I'm supposed to be. Right now that means I'm the district attorney of a county that I grew up in, that I love, that I am proud to serve. I could list my awards and accolades, but they're just pieces of paper and pieces of tin that you hang on your wall. You come into my office, I don't even have my diplomas on my wall, let alone an award. I got pictures of my family and pictures of the beach, frankly, because that's what makes me feel good. And if my people that I work with every day tell me that they respect me and love coming to work, which they do, that's my biggest achievement that I'm proud of.
Mrs. Stancu.
The fact that I am an attorney in the position and have accomplished everything that I've accomplished, I owe to my family. But I am incredibly proud of where I came from and how I got here. I also could sit here and list a number of awards, and maybe some of them were the same that Mr. Weintraub received. But there is one that means a lot to me. I received the Outstanding Prosecutor of the Year award in 2017. And the reason it means a lot to me is because the Pennsylvania Narcotics Officers Association nominated and awarded me for that. They picked me. Officers who work countless hours at trying to make sure that our drug traffickers are off the street picked me because of the work I did to assist them. And I'm really proud of that.
Thank you. We will now go to closing comments. Again, 1 minute. The candidates drew for the order, and first will be Mrs. Stancu.
Thank you. Thank you again for having us tonight. Look, what we're doing isn't working. Over the last 5 years, we have seen drug overdose rates go up by 17%, and that is heartbreaking. We've seen mental health still not be a priority. We've seen violence on our headlines here in Bucks County by Bucks County residents daily. It's not working. It's time to make changes. I am someone who will bring you those changes. I'm someone with a real plan to address mental health, with a real plan to address the drug addiction rates here in Bucks County, to ensure that our mental health crisis is actually paid attention to, and that our kids can go to school feeling safe.
Mr. Weintraub.
I haven't heard any plans. All I've heard is scare tactics. This is what I want you to think about. People don't remember what you say. They don't remember what you did. They remember how you make them feel. And if you've met me, you've heard me speak, if I've answered your phone call or met you at the door, you know me. I'm real. This is me. And I pledge to give you everything I have every day to keep you safe. Because my family lives here in Bucks County. I grew up here. I care so much for Bucks County that I would lay it all on the line, like apparently we're doing. But these scare tactics don't work. I ask you to ask yourself this question, because I know that you are safe. And if you feel safe, and I guarantee you that you should, then there's no reason to change who you vote for. She'll be me for 4 more years as your district attorney. I'd be honored to continue to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank the candidates and those of you who have been listening to the live stream or will listen to this between now and Election Day to help you decide who can best represent you as the Bucks County District Attorney. And now I will hand this back to Jean Weston, who's the co-president of the League of Women of Bucks County, for some voting reminders. Jean.
Yes. Again, thanks to everybody who tuned into this evening. I do want to remind people that tomorrow evening we'll be presenting a candidate forum for the Judge of Court of Common Pleas. So I hope that all of you can join us for that. Also, the municipal election day is Tuesday, November 2nd, and the polls are open on that day from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The officials that you elect this year will affect our lives in many ways. And to find out more about the candidates, all of the candidates seeking your votes, please go to vote411.org. Tuesday, October 26th is the last day to apply for a mail-in ballot. You can submit your application online by midnight on October 26th by going to vote411.org. When you mail your mail-in ballot, post it well ahead of the election. It takes at least a week to get to the Board of Elections, and ballots must be received by them by 8 o'clock on Election Day. You can use a drop box. There are 11 drop boxes provided in Bucks County. They're located in government buildings and libraries throughout the county. You can find out the actual locations and hours of operation for each of these drop boxes on the Board of Elections website at buckscounty.gov. And again, I would like to thank our candidates tonight for joining us, and Sandy Madsen for coming over from New Jersey to be our moderator. Thank you and good night.